example 1, before we get to this example, we're going to do a little bit of a review. Okay, a little review of graphing lines. First of all, how do you recognize that something is a line? There's one x and one y and numbers. So that's where we get the general form, ax plus by plus c equals 0. Normally we rearrange that to y equals mx plus b because that's helpful. So how do you graph lines? Number 1, you use the y-intercept to get one point, and the slope to get another point. And once you have 2 points, you draw a straight line between them. Or just find 2 points. You can either very common is the x and y intercepts, or you could just use a table of values, which is like x and y intercept is basically part of your table of values. You plugged in 0 for x, you found y. You plug in 0 for y, you find x. Once you find those 2 points, you can draw a straight line. Okay? Next review that I want to do quickly is a review of inequalities. Inequalities we solve like equations, but there is one special rule. So when you multiply or divide by a negative, the inequality flips. This is really easy to see when you take something like, everybody agrees that -3 is less than 7. If I multiply this side by -2 and this side by -2, then I get 6 on this side and -14 on this side. This is the easy way to remember the rule. Take something that you know is true. -3 is less than 7. If you multiply by -2, you get 6 and -14. Well, now, 6 is bigger than -14. The sign has to change. That's the reason why the rule is there. You can see it really easily if you use simple numbers. But it's only true for multiplying and dividing. What about adding a negative? Well, 8 is less than 10. If I subtract 2 from this side and subtract 2 from that side, what am I going to do with 6 and 8? Sign is still going to be the same. So, this is our review of inequalities and our review of graphing lines. What we are now going to do is we are going to look at this first example, which says graph, and it's a line x minus 3y equals 6. So now you have to decide for yourself, do I want to change to y equals mx plus b to graph, or do I just want to find the x-intercept and y-intercept? What will be easier for me? In this one, I'm thinking x-intercept and y-intercept is really easy mental math. How do you find an x-intercept? Your y value is 0. How do you find a y-intercept? Your x value is 0. So if I plug in 0 for y, it's really easy mental math to figure out my x-intercept is 6. If I plug in 0 for x, I get negative 3y equals 6. I'd have to divide by negative 3. Relatively easy to find the y-intercept. So now, when I go to graph this, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 comma 0, and I've got 0, negative 2. Okay? Now, the difference in graphing an inequality is we have to make a rule when we have these signs compared to these signs. And mathematically, how we show that on a graph is we draw a dotted line, because those ones aren't included, and we draw a solid line when they are included. Because the solid line would include the equals, and the equals is when you would normally graph the straight line. But the not equal sign, it doesn't include the actual line, so we draw it as dotted. In this case, I have to look back at the equation. I'm going to just erase my symbol here. What was it? It was a greater than sign, no equal sign. So when I go to draw my straight line through these points, I draw that straight line with a dotted line. And then finally, we should try some test points. I love trying 0, 0. It's the easiest one to try. If I try 0, 0, I get 0 greater than 6. True or false? False. If you find this point is false there, then your solution is the other section, and we shade in where the solution is. So this means that any point we check in here, what would be an easy point to check? Maybe this one. 0, negative 4. Plug in 0 for x, negative 4 for y. Can you see that you would get 12 greater than 6? That point is true. If we tested any other points in that section, they would be true. Okay? So, 5.1, because we're about to start the soccer game, 5.1 is all about lines and shading. 5.2. 5.3, which we'll do on Monday, but it's on your quiz, is all about drawing parabolas and shading. The same idea, though. You test points to find out if they're true or not, and shade.